All right. Well, good morning, everybody. And today, as I open up, I really want to raise the standard of really what we're really trying to do with Mindset Mondays. And I want everyone to understand that as we elevate the room in the discussion, the goal here is not to motivate you, not to energize you, but to really elevate you, because here's something most people never learn as a job seeker. It's not what happens to you that destabilizes you. It's really the meaning you assign to what happened to you that can cause that destabilization, right? And when I break that down for you, I want it to make sense that when two people are faced with a setback, one will see disaster and one sees information. We talk heavily about understanding the difference. The same event happens, but two different interpretations, two completely different trajectories. And here's really the uncomfortable truth that sits with this. Interpretation is a skill. However, in my experience in working with professionals, most adults never, ever train for it. And let's really define something clearly for you. There are three layers to every event. One, the event itself. Two, the interpretation of that event. And then the third, which normally catches us, is the emotional response. And most people collapse layer one and layer three together. They assume that the event immediately jumps into the emotion, but that's not true. It's really the event, how we internalize and interpret, and then move towards emotion. You don't feel discouraged because of the rejection, because of loss, but you feel discouraged because of the story you told yourself about that rejection or that loss. And that distinction is really everything that I'm trying to lean into today. If you're wanting to create a professional edge, like most high performers do, it's not that they're emotionally flat. I think that's a big misconception, that people think that you just don't have emotions. That's not true at all. They actually understand those emotions. They're interpreting those emotions in a disciplined fashion. When they receive a setback, they don't jump to that emotion. They take that pause. They ask, what else could this mean? Instead of asking, this is proof I'm not good enough, they ask things like, what data is here? And that pause that you have about the data and understanding those emotions, and not you chase the fact and not the emotion, that's the pause of maturity. That's the pause that gives you the advantage. And that is the pause that separates the emotional volatility from that professional composure. That doesn't mean you don't feel the emotion. That doesn't mean you don't have the emotion. It just means that you are taking a moment for yourself. We talked last week about learning how to take those deep breaths. We talked a lot about how in an interview, when a question goes awry, we have to be able to take that pause, really lean back and breathe. And as we move into mid-February, and the hiring cycles are accelerating right now, all the budgets are active. Leadership has alignment on new roles. Opportunities are now starting to become not only just real, thank goodness, but they're becoming a little bit more abundant, right? But I don't want to misinterpret the fact that the friction is still there, right? With the more opportunities, there will be more silence. There will be more rejections. There will be more competition. If your interpretation muscles are weak, then this season can become overwhelming for all of us. But if your interpretation muscles are strong, then the season becomes your leverage. Remember, it's the same market that it has been. We're not seeing massive differences in the data, right? It's just you have a different lens. You have a different perspective, which allows you to be able to see different outcomes. I want to make sure that I really lean into the point about motivation, because I know it's Mindset Monday, and motivation is a roller coaster. But when motivation drops, the systems that you build is what carries you. But there's even a higher layer here. Systems don't just protect execution, they protect your interpretation. When you have really strong structure, when you have a defined 9 to 3 method of blocks in your schedule, when you have a networking cadence, when you understand the value of reflection, discovery, and execution so you can breathe, you end up not spiraling into the concept and the belief that your system isn't working. You simply just evaluate what needs adjustment, and the systems then around you start to create emotional stability. Not because it makes you feel better, not because the emotions go away, but because they prevent an exaggerated storytelling moment against yourself. So when something happens this week, something frustrating, hard, difficult, just take a pause and really ask 3 primary things. What are the objective facts? What story am I adding to those facts? And what is the most strategic interpretation available based on those facts? It doesn't have to be the most positive. It doesn't even have to be the most strategic. But it does have to, you have to understand how optimism without strategy is truly denial. And strategy without emotional regulation is cold. We want disciplined interpretation. There's value in those emotions and how they lead you to the facts, and how those emotions and facts work together so that you can see the system is doing well and where it needs adjustment. And I want you to realize that everybody on this call and everyone in the community as job seekers, everyone's technically capable of doing this, right? It doesn't matter if you've never practiced this before or if you've practiced it your whole life, right? But the key here is what separates us from everyone else, right? Is we can build through practice, through each other, through the community, that emotional steadiness. And where it shows up the most, and we talked about practice for the last month and a half, it shows up for hiring managers and leadership teams. They feel it. The recruiters feel that confidence and that energy. The entire leadership team will feel it. And if you're easily destabilized internally, then it will come through. It'll leak externally. But if you can learn how to interpret intelligently, you protect your composure. And composure signals readiness. Interpretation is not a bunch of fluff. It really is professional leverage. So one of the things that I want to make sure everybody understands, and this is the hard part, right, is don't blame the world. It's easy for us to go down that road. The market's tough, yes. Someone shouldn't ghost you, yes. Is there gaps in recruiting? Yes. Is there gaps in follow-up? Yes. All of those are yeses. But 2 things can be true at once. And all those things can be extremely confident or complicated, but we can still find so many people landing roles right now. And I'm not saying interpretation is the key reason for all that, but I do know that confidence plays a huge role based on not just the data, but we all know that 97% of all leadership teams make a hire because they feel comfortable with the individual. And if that's the case, then we have to look internally to say, are we providing them the view of who we really are and how comfortable and confident we are, not just in what we've done in our past, what we're currently doing, but also of how we're going to make everybody else in that organization better. If you can understand that the market is neutral, the events in our lives are neutral, and your story is what gives the market or those events power, then this week, don't just execute. I want you to think better. I want you to interpret better. I want you to respond strategically, because the person who controls the meaning controls the momentum. And I really know all of you can elevate overall your professional development, but most importantly for us, we can execute this week as we're viewing some of the largest hiring that we could see all year long over the next 2 weeks to a month. I appreciate you guys as always, and I hope you guys feel my heart when I say these things to you, that we have the best community and we all have the ability to rally around each other as we go through some really hard times. And if we all remind each other to take a break, breathe, and lean in, I know that we'll continue to have the success that we've had. We'll continue to have the wonderful success stories, but even more than that, we'll continue to see those small wins compound, and we'll have more and more individuals inside this community, not just find jobs, but they'll find the right jobs, the dream jobs. I appreciate you guys. And obviously for everybody on the call, we can have some chats. We can talk about the week. We can have some questions, but thank you. And we'll catch everybody for next week for Mindset Monday.